What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again for another predicted lineup show. As you can see to my left-hand side, Ben is still not with us, so we have Ashmatic in the building to go through the predicted lineup. Come on.
My G.
We are predicting the lineup for the Aston Villa game on the Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff at Villa Park. Spurs do need a result to maintain that sixth spot. It's going to be a big battle from now to the end of the season to get the last Europa League spot. Mason did his press conference just before, and he hasn't confirmed any new injuries, but Hugo Lloris, Sessegnon, Bentancur are all remaining out. Bissouma is down as a doubt in this game, albeit he was on the bench for the last game against Crystal Palace, but Mason has said that he believes that maybe he was a bit premature bringing him on the bench, so whether he'll be available for the game on Saturday remains to be seen, but he isn't set to start, we don't think. But we're going to go for a 3-4-3 formation. We're a bit of a hybrid like against Crystal Palace. And first of all, in goal, we'll start with Fraser Forster. Obviously, kept a clean sheet last week against Crystal Palace. And he's been an able deputy, hasn't he, for Hugo Lloris?
Yeah, I think what the difference with Forster is that he plays that ball in first time. He's able to clip those balls in, doesn't panic under pressure. He's able to take a touch, and then that vital second, that half a second makes a difference when you're playing out from the back. And he just seems a lot more composed and assured. And I think the defence trust him as well. Commanding talks at the back as well. So yeah, man, I'm happy overall with Forster.
All right, so Fraser Forster in goal, right centre back first, and we're going to put Emerson Royale there on the right centre back spot. He obviously came in a bit of a surprise inclusion last week considering his position, but I did think it really worked really well, and I think it's important to keep that continuity going in that right back on the ball, right centre back on the ball, right back off the ball, and I think that probably gets the best out of him.
Yeah, I think defensively he just balances out the team, I feel, and knows when to tuck into the back three, knows when to turn into the back four. He's done it before as well for us, so it's nothing new. His actual characteristics as a footballer athletically suits the role. He's got a good engine on him as well, up and down, helps out his teammates, and he knows what he's good at. Do you know what I mean? And also, another thing about him I'll mention, he reminds me of like a Brazilian Sonny in terms of that he's happy-go-lucky kind of. He's someone that you like to put in the dressing room. He's quite like cheery, do you know what I mean? Always got a smile on his face. Doesn't matter if things are going against you. You kind of want someone like Emerson beside you, and he's always going to motivate you and pick you up if you're down.
Yep, so Emerson in that spot. Central centre-back is Cuti Romero, who did a brilliant job, I felt, against Crystal Palace last week in a slightly new role, mostly used on the right centre-back slot, but I think he thrived, and maybe with that increased responsibility with that role, maybe that really helped him.
He used to play in that position at Atalanta. He used to play the furthest of the three, and used to have two centre-backs just behind him, and I feel like he looks more comfortable in his position. He's doing what he's meant to do. He naturally steps up, defends front-footed, and he's just doing well. Everyone's saying that this looks like the Romero of the World Cup, and I agree. For Argentina, of course.
Yeah, and I thought as well, wasn't just his defending, which was literally faultless against Palace, but I felt like he was like the only player who was able to get some sort of was able to get any supply to the front three as well. A number of times he was finding Son and Richarlison with progressive passes. I felt like even Højbjerg and Skip weren't able to find the front three as regular as Romero, so that was really good. On the left centre-back role, Clement Longley, we're going to put him there. Had a solid game. Did put his body on the line last week, didn't he? Diving headfirst into a sliding challenge. But he obviously is going to be very important as well, because he's going to slot in alongside Romero when we're off the ball in a back four, which is going to be vital. But what do you think of Longlegs? There's a lot of talk about him right now, about whether we should keep him.
Do you know what it is? It's another option. At the back, playing out from the back, hitting those long balls, hitting those diagonals, transitioning in that 3 into a 4. I think he does it quite well. He's left-footed, so he doesn't have to turn out to put it onto his right. He can hit the ball first time, and I think that helps us transition up the pitch quite quickly. It's very vital that you have a left-sided centre-back, and he's one of our better ones at the moment. In terms of defensive ability, aerially he's not bad. But it's just on the ground. I feel like he's a bit slow. Fans a bit wanting at times. Not physical enough for me. In that profile as a centre back for the Premier League, he seems a bit more of a culture kind of defender. Someone that likes to, take time and kind of like stand off the defenders a bit.
Yeah, he's not the most physical. So I feel like when he engages in either one-on-one situations or even in the box when he has to bully a striker, he struggles a bit. But I always feel like positionally he's fairly strong. Obviously on the ball he's very composed. So he definitely has his strengths. But I feel like what we need, I don't know, like for example, if we're going to revert to a system where we're playing with a high line, like can you trust Longa in that situation? I don't know. Next up on the right wing back slot / right midfielder is Pedro Porro. Got an assist last week against Crystal Palace with a really good cross. I think as well, as much as it helps Emerson, this hybrid system, I think it helps Porro as well. Allows him to show off his best qualities, which is getting forward, getting crosses in the box and providing for the front three.
Yeah, and I noticed against in the Palace game when he saw Romero pressing to win the ball back, he also was a part of that trigger press. He's good at doing the trigger press. He's a bit good at kind of helping his teammates to win the ball back. And then he's really good at hugging that touchline, getting really high up that pitch. And Kane said he appreciates him. He said his crossings really pinpoint. And certain times he comes inside at half space and has a shot.
Yeah, he's had a few shots on target as well, hasn't he?
He scored two already, and I think
he scored two. Yeah,
the return that he's produced for us has been quite impressive already. And just imagine if we signed him at the start of the window.
Yeah, he's returned already over a short space of time in a struggling team as well. So imagine maybe in a system where it doesn't highlight his flaws like we've been playing beforehand, maybe he can thrive even more. And that's exactly what we thought. He might bring that kind of attacking quality from the wing, which we've missed a lot. On the left-hand side, we're going to go for Ben Davis. Perisic has been in good form, so it is unfortunate he was dropped last week. But I just think in the hybrid formation, like, Davis drops into left back when we're off the ball, then wing back when we're on the ball. Like, you don't want Perisic dropping into left back when we're off the ball. So unfortunately, it just means I don't think he can play there.
Yeah, it does cut one of our options off, which is a shame because in a reverse fixture, he was getting on the end of things, wasn't he? He got on the end of a couple chances that he could have.
He was our main threat.
He was one of our main threats, and he was coming inside a lot. He was running with the ball and creating chances for himself and his teammates. Kane even had a chance for a cross that he put on. So we do miss that left-handed side where Davies sometimes can't beat that first man. I think Perisic, lately anyway, has been getting those crosses, hanging those crosses up for the back post, and we're quite familiar with how he plays, and obviously he's got quite a few assists. But yeah, Davies offers obviously defensive solidity, and he does the underlapping runs as well. And in fact, he was actually involved in that Crystal Palace goal. The ball comes into Davies. Davies plays it into Kane when Son makes a run outside. When Kane picks that ball up, then Kane switches the ball to Porro, and then Porro switches it back and then scores a goal. Kane scores a header. So Davies was involved in that goal. So sometimes some of his work is unnoticed.
Yeah, I agree. But I don't like in this formation. I just feel like sometimes you don't see him get forward enough, but at least like he's in that role where he can be very solid at the back and improve. I think that's maybe why we look so solid defensively. But in the central midfield, we have the first one, Ollie Skip on the right-hand side, with Basuma probably not going to be fit enough to start, and with Papa Matissa, I don't know if Mason trusts him. We're thinking Skip's probably going to come into this game, and I did think he had a bit of a dip pre-Liverpool game, but then since the Liverpool game, I do think maybe his form's starting to come back a bit because he's had a bit of an up and down time since breaking into the team, hasn't he?
I've been watching him quite closely because I need to know what my midfielders are doing, like what their strengths are. Because we've got so many midfielders that are very similar, it's hard to see who to swap out. With Skip, he has got legs. That's one thing I'll give him. He's got legs, he's got engine, runs a lot. Positionally, he helps out the defence, knows when to drop in. When one of our wing backs push forward, he knows to sit back. And when playing out from the back, he often makes the right pass. His strong points is the turnovers. When he's in that position, he wins the ball back. He's very direct. He rarely passes backwards, but if he passes backwards, he wants the ball back, and then his next thought is to get that ball in and behind. And he does open his body up. It's in that Liverpool game, he was a part of that attack when Højbjerg wanted the 1-2. He just said, no, I'm giving it to Perry, and he played that ball straight in. And there was another time in that Liverpool game when he got on the ball and he passes out wide. I think it was into Kulu, and Kulu ends up getting a little break. So he is quite forward thinking in that deep line role. He can improve on it, yes. And I think that midfield partner just doesn't help him because, like we said before, they're quite similar. So you don't always get to see the best of Skip. But the only time I've seen him get forward was that was it the Chelsea game? Or West Ham,
when he scored. No, when he scored against Chelsea.
It's Chelsea when he scored, yeah. So he doesn't get forward as much as I like, or he doesn't shoot as much as I would like, because I have seen him in advanced roles before, but when he has been in an advanced role, he hasn't scored or shooting enough for me. In my opinion.
Unlike his midfield partner, who does seem to get in the final third a bit more, and Pierre Højbjerg, again, a player who's had I would say a mixed season, but he started the season with the house on fire, and then had a bit of a dip post World Cup. Again, has had a bit of an up and down time over the last few games. I can't see him being dropped for this one, but he's going to be very important because Villa are going to be very central in how they play. Have a lot of players in central areas, so Højbjerg is going to have his wits about him when sometimes he can kind of lose concentration, I feel.
Yeah, sometimes he can go missing in games. He can where's our midfield? And you're looking for a player to stand up. Sometimes he can go missing. What he does bring you is, when he's on it anyway, he does give you heart desire, gives you the right attitude, application. He'll win a foul for you always as well. I've noticed that quite a lot. In that Palace game, he did link up with Kane. He did have a chance where Kane fed it through to him in the first half, and he kind of pulls a little bit wide and he hits a shot inside the box and it kind of goes over the bar. But he just doesn't do that enough for me. I'd like to see him do those runs from deep where he's not picked up. He's not expected to do that type of run. He's got it in his locker. He's done it for Denmark so many times. So I wouldn't mind seeing that a lot more if out of the two double pivots, he does push forward a bit more because he's got Skip there protecting. So he has to use a lot more initiative for me. But yeah, he is there for an out ball, so we can play out from the back. He is that spare man, and he pretty much plays close to Skip all the time. I think he's important. Obviously, we've got to face and deal with that situation of Douglas Luiz, and we do have to measure up to Den Locker. Both of them are quite physical players, and I think we do need two physical players to match them in that midfield, and I think that's going to be an important battle on Saturday.
Right wing, or right inside forward, we're going for Richarlison. Obviously, Kulusevski could be an option in this role. He Richarlison started the first game for Mason, then Kulusevski came in, and Richarlison's come back in again. But we're thinking Richarlison's going to retain his place despite not impressing too much against Crystal Palace. But what I think about Richarlison, what I would say is I definitely think if he's going to start Richarlison, he should play him more on the left than on the right. And as well, what I want to see more of Richarlison, which I feel like we haven't seen enough of him, is getting into the box. I feel like he can be so good with it in the air, and also his finishing inside the box from crosses is strong. But I think for him to make the most of that, we need to see him on the left so he can get on the back post when Porro's crossing it in, because I feel like him at the front post with Porro there isn't most conducive to getting the best out of him and creating chances for himself in the box and stuff like that. Obviously, you know what you're going to get from Endeavour and work rate and stuff like that, but I want to see more of him having those instincts in the box.
You know what I've missed from Richarlison, which I used to see in Everton a lot? He used to do a lot of runs. He used to carry the ball a lot. He used to run in behind a lot, and I think we missed that. I don't know if it's because he's been told to tuck in a lot more because we use the wing-back system a lot. But I think I agree. If he's on that left-hand side and Davies is tucked in a little bit more, he'd have more space to maybe run those channels maybe. And Sonny's really good at coming inside and shooting shots from outside that box. So I think Richarlison on that left-hand side could be devastating if we utilise him properly. If Mason gets the best out of him and say, look, you're my number one, I need to see you running that channel a lot more, doing it similar to what Ollie Watkins is doing. I think Richarlison could do the same job. And we've seen how devastating he can be, because when he was in Brazil, in that box, like you were saying, he was a monster in the box. So we just need to see that same aggression, same application in that final third, and then we can just stick to what you're good at. Stick to what you know you're good at. All this coming short and passing, I don't think that's his strength. I think he's better deployed in that front three, doing what he does best.
I agree. The other two players, obviously, we've got Heung-min Son on the left-hand side, and he's going to be partnered by the same man as always, Harry Kane up top. Obviously, those two are going to be central if we are going to hurt this Villa defence. A very stringent Villa defence who have conceded 3 goals in their past 5 games. They've been very strong under Unai Emery, but those two are going to be the key to unlock it, because though those two we know have the special talents, they even since Mason has come in, those two are still the ones providing as well goals and assists. So it's going to be again heavy relying on that partnership.
I think Kane pins one of the centre halves, and I like to see Son making those bending type of runs, running in behind, running on the shoulder, causing them all sorts of problems. I do respect what he did against Palace in his defensive work, dropping in behind, helping out, becoming an attacking midfielder. But I really want to see Son quite high up the pitch, just doing what he does best. And if they do kind of, solidify that middle part of the pitch, then I like to see him like whip a ball into the top corner. Also,
it's something I feel like since Mason's come, we've seen a bit more of, is that instead of Sonny having his back to goal, he's a lot more having his face to go forward to goal now, which is I think helping him drive into space and get goal side, create more goal scoring opportunities. And I feel like under Conte, like he spent way too much time having his back to goal and trying to hold players off, and it wasn't working. He was losing the ball way too easily. So I'm glad they're trying to sort that issue out, and he looks a lot more effective now with his front facing. So that's good. And obviously Kane is Harry Kane, 26 Premier League goals. What a man. But let's look line up one more time. We've got Forster in goal, a back 5 of Porro, Emerson, Romero, Longley and Davis, Skip and Højbjerg in the midfield with Richarlison, Son and Kane up front. If that's the lineup, what kind of result are you expecting?
As I said on the previous show, it's the interchanging of Aston Villa that worries me. Are we switched on enough to pick them up? We're away from home, albeit that we've got a fantastic record against Aston Villa. It's the battle of tactics. Can Unai Emery or can Mason outdo Unai Emery tactically? That's something I'm not sure about. So that's why I was wobbling and kind of moving towards like a 1-1 draw.
Is that an optimistic 1-1 draw? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. That just keeps us like in the race, I think, somewhat. So it doesn't completely kill it.
Yeah, I also went 1-1. I also think we're going to struggle to win this game just because Villa have a great home record as well. 5 on the trot, they won at home. And I still think, despite maybe improvements in how we've been playing, are we going to be good enough and are we going to be motivated enough to go and actually grab a win at Villa Park? I question that, especially with the confidence Villa are going to have. But I think if we avoid defeat, I think it is a good result, especially if Brighton don't beat Arsenal on Sunday. Then I do think it keeps that top 6 wide open for Spurs. And I think a draw would be good. Even a defeat doesn't completely end our top 6 hopes, only because if we get 6 points out of 6 in the following 2 games, then I do think it keeps those hopes alive of getting top 6, considering how hard Brighton's fixtures are. But I do think if Spurs come away with the result, that would be positive, and I do think that could go a long way to seeing that Europa League spot. But that is your predicted lineup. Let us know in the comment section below if you agree. Do you think it's going to go unchanged from last week, or do you expect any changes from Ryan Mason? I want to know in the comment section below. Thank you everyone for joining us. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on you Spurs.